Chapter 3609. I won't let you down. These things are quite easy to deal with. Daoist Shen God smiled. How about this? I'll give the order. From today onwards, you will be the young palace master of our Star Palace. Your position in the Star Palace will be second only to mine. In addition, you can use any of the resources in the Star Palace as long as they are of use to you. You don't have to pay a price for them. For example, you can use all the supreme treasures in the Supreme Treasure Vault as long as you think you can use them. You don't have to use contribution points to exchange for them. You can also go to the Supreme Treasure Vault to look for the things you just mentioned that can only be used for reference. You should be able to find them. Thank you, Palace Master. Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised. As the young Palace Master, he could use all the resources in Star Palace at will. Such treatment. However, Jian Wushuang also understood that he had gained a lot, but he would have to pay more in the future. He was the only one who could save the Divine Beginning Realm. His growth was crucial to the Divine Beginning Realm. That was why Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor had helped him so gratuitously. Now that he had received their benefits, he had to complete his mission. His responsibility was very great. Do you need anything else? Daoist Shen God continued to ask. Not for the time being, Jian Wushuang said. The things he had just mentioned were helpful to his cultivation or strength. At the moment, he only needed these things to improve his strength. As for other things, he would talk about them later. Well, then you should cultivate well and break through to become a Principal's Master as soon as possible. When you become a Principal's Master, you can open the holy region that has been sealed all this time, Daoist Shen God said with a smile. Open the seal? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but then he said excitedly, Palace Master, who are you? As long as I break through to become a Principal's Master, I can open the seal, enter the 7-star Divine Realm, and return to my hometown? His hometown, the eternal chaotic world, the green fire world. He had too many relatives there. His parents, his brothers, and his good friends were all there. In this life, although he also had parents and brothers, in terms of feelings, they were slightly worse. In the past, countless cultivators in the 7-star Divine Realm sacrificed their lives to seal the 7-star Divine Realm. The seal was very strong, and even several rulers working together could not break it. However, the seal was just to leave a way out for the 7-star mysterious sect and the Divine Beginning Realm, and a glimmer of hope. The seal was led by Shen Yi, who left some special means on the seal. This means was specially reserved for you. When you're weak, you can't break the seals. But when you reach the level of a Principal's Master, your strength shouldn't be weaker than Shen Yi at his peak. The Divine Beginning Realm has the ability to fight with Devil Cloudstar again. At this time, you can break the seals and wake up the experts left by the 7-star mysterious sect and return to the Divine Beginning Realm. Daoist Shen God said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang could not help but shake his hands. Not only that, in order to ensure that the seal is safe, one of the 3 Freedom Alliances, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, is also the strongest among us. He has been guarding around the seal all year round and has been paying attention to everything inside. When you break the seal, you will be able to see him for real, Daoist Shen God said. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, he had used a token to guide a consciousness clone of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master on the Sohar Island. At that time, a Saint Realm Master had mentioned that the original body of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had been guarding a certain place. He had not left for hundreds of millions of years. Now it seemed that the place that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was guarding was the place where the heavy seal was. For such a long time, he had not left for even half a step. Countless cultivators in the 7-star Divine Realm would have to remember the favor of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang slowly bowed to the 3 people in front of him. Seniors, I will do my best to live up to your expectations. No, there are also my master, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, the countless cultivators who risked their lives to set up the Great Formation, and the millions of lives in the Divine Beginning Realm. Go! Daoist Shen God smiled and waved his hand. Jian Wushuang turned and left. In the palace, Daoist Shen God, temporal temple master, and the heaven ancestor were still standing together. They looked at each other with a smile on their faces. We have prepared for so many years for this little guy. I hope this little guy will not forget our disappointment. After all, the divine beginning realm cannot accept another failure. Daoist Shen God sighed. Yes, the last defeat had left the divine beginning realm riddled with holes, but there were still some things left. There was also time for them to make sufficient preparations before coming back. However, if they were to experience another defeat like that, not to mention that the divine beginning realm had reached the middle stage of its lifespan, they would not have enough time to prepare for so many years. There was probably no one who could change everything. Jian Wushuang was able to appear because of Shen Yi's endless years of hard work and effort, as well as that era, which happened to be a stage where all the potential of the divine beginning realm was completely exploited. In addition to that, he was extremely lucky. That was how he succeeded. Indeed, Shen Yi had created Jian Wushuang. However, Shen Yi was only a step that Jian Wushuang could take to be born. The heaven, earth, and people were in harmony with each other. The potential of the divine beginning realm was being squeezed endlessly. Although it was pushing the seedlings to grow, it was also pushing the seedlings to a high explosive stage. At that time, the cultivation environment of the divine beginning realm was no less than that of the first-class astral world. Naturally, it was easier for geniuses to be born at that stage. That was the heaven and time. The geographical advantage was naturally the 7-star divine realm. Countless cultivators risked their lives to gather all their luck in one place, and that place was Jian Wushuang's hometown, the Green Fire World. The combination of the three factors created Jian Wushuang. But if one of them was missing, Jian Wushuang would not be able to withstand the weather. But now in the divine beginning realm, there was no such geographical advantage. At most, there were only people. Believe in this little fellow, just like how you believed in Shen Yi back then, Temporal Temple Master smiled. Speaking of Shen Yi, actually, I still can't believe it. At such a critical moment, he made a crazy and unbelievable plan at the last minute. In the end, he actually succeeded. He actually created a new perfect life form, giving us a chance to make a comeback and fight again. Heaven Ancestor could not help but exclaim. Chapter 36:10, Fawning not to mention you, I also find it hard to believe. Daoist Shen God smiled, then, he said seriously, since God has given us a chance to fight again, we must not make any mistakes this time. After all, our divine beginning realm can't afford to fail again. You're right. From now on, this little guy's life is more important than any of us, Temporal Temple Master added. Well, go do what you have to do. Heaven Ancestor, go and find out about the Netherfire blood crystal. If you need any help, feel free to call us, Daoist Shen God said. The three of them immediately disappeared. Jian Wushuang was flying slowly in the Star Palace alone. He was still a little excited. In this life, he had worked hard for a long time. Finally, he was only one step away from becoming a Principal's Master. Once he broke through to become a Principal's Master, he could return to the Green Fire World, his hometown, and meet his family and friends. Star Palace occupied an Earth star and had many experts under its command. Although most experts roamed the three battlefields all year round, some stayed in Star Palace. When Jian Wushuang was flying in Star Palace, many people had already noticed his existence. Look, isn't that Bloodsword Master? Yes, it's Bloodsword Master. Bloodsword Master entered the unknown region of Devil Smoke Valley alone and went missing for nearly 100,000 years. Not long ago, he walked out of the life and death realm, and his strength skyrocketed. He defeated 5 experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm by himself. Now, he is publicly recognized as the #1 Principal's Master. How could he be from Star Palace? You just found out that Bloodsword Master came from Star Palace. This news has long spread in this territory. Just now, the Palace Master personally ordered that from today on, Bloodsword Master is the young Palace Master of Star Palace. His position in Star Palace is second only to Palace Master. Young Palace Master? Everyone was secretly amazed. Jian Wushuang was now very famous in this territory. Many cultivators in Star Palace were undoubtedly proud that such a supreme principal's master came from Star Palace. While Jian Wushuang was flying, many principal's masters of Star Palace took the initiative to fly up. Blood Sword Master. Greetings, young Palace Master. Greetings, sir. One after another, compliments rang in Jian Wushuang's ears. However, Jian Wushuang just nodded indifferently with an extremely cold expression. He knew that these people were so respectful to him because they knew his strength and status. Now, they just wanted to make friends with him. However, when he was not so strong and his strength was not so great, but no one took the initiative to make friends with him. This was the reality. When you were unknown, no one would pay attention to you. But when you were famous, there were a lot of people who took the initiative to come over. Jian Wushuang obviously saw these real people very clearly. If before, when he was not so famous, someone took the initiative to make friends with him, he would be happy to make friends with them. But now, he could not be bothered with these people. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks Blood Sword Master. Another voice sounded. However, when he saw the person who appeared in front of him, Jian Wushuang's cold expression finally eased, and a trace of a smile gradually appeared on his face. Heavy Master, didn't you go to the battlefield with Purple Sound Master? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Heavy Master was one of the few cultivators in Star Palace who had interacted with each other, and they had a good relationship. My brother and I just came back from the Devil Smoke Valley. When we came back, we heard that you had a shocking battle in Devil Smoke Valley. To be honest, I was shocked when I heard the news. Now, everyone in this territory says that you're the strongest principal's master, Heavy Master said with a smile. He could not help thinking back to the first time he met Jian Wushuang. He did not put Jian Wushuang in his eyes at all, but as soon as they arrived at Devil Smoke Valley, he and Master Ziming encountered a trap set by Master Fei. It was a life-and-death situation. It was Jian Wushuang who arrived in time and saved his life. From that moment on, he changed his opinion of Jian Wushuang. He sincerely befriended Jian Wushuang, and they even worked together to snatch the Puluo God parts. When Jian Wushuang had revealed himself in the fight for the Puluo God parts, he had been extremely surprised. However, he had not expected that in less than 100,000 years, Blood Sword Master had suddenly become the #1 principal's master in this territory. Now that Heavy Master was standing in front of Jian Wushuang and looking at him, he felt like he was dreaming. Jian Wushuang's progress was too terrifying. Heavy Master, I have something to do now, so I won't talk much. When I'm free, I'll come and have a drink with you and Master Ziming, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay, sure. The Heavy Master nodded quickly. Jian Wushuang left, but the Heavy Master was overjoyed. He stood there, but he could feel many jealous eyes around him. This Heavy Master is really lucky. That's right. So many of us took the initiative to curry favor with Blood Sword Master, and Blood Sword Master didn't even bother to look at him. But this Heavy Master, Blood Sword Master, actually chatted and laughed with him, and even said that he wanted to have a drink with him. Clearly, they have a relationship. Ari, back when Blood Sword Master was weak, it was easy for us to curry favor with him. But now, he is already publicly recognized as the #1 principal's master in this territory. If we continue to go up to him like this, it will become a form of fawning and flattery. Unlike this Heavy Master, who had a relationship with Blood Sword Master back then, even now Blood Sword Master is willing to chat and drink with him. In other words, if Heavy Master encounters any trouble in the future and asks Blood Sword Master for help, Blood Sword Master will at least listen to him, even if he won't agree immediately. Heavy Master is really lucky. Many cultivators in Star Palace were secretly discussing, and they were very envious of Heavy Master. They all knew how high Jian Wushuang's status was in the Star Palace. As for Heavy Master, it would be much more convenient for him to do things in the Star Palace in the future since he was able to talk to Jian Wushuang. Heavy Master himself knew this, so when he noticed the envious gazes around him, he raised his head and laughed complacently. Then, he left under the burning gazes. Jian Wushuang did not know about these things, so he did not bother to pay attention to them. Now, he had arrived in front of the top officials of Star Palace. Chapter 36:11. the results of the investigation Axe 1 Master, Marquis Duan Yu, Star Saint Master, and 7 Emotions Master, the 4 highest-ranking officials of Star Palace, stood respectfully in front of Jen Wushuang. My young friend, let me introduce you. This is 7 Emotions Master, a member of the highest-ranking officials of Star Palace. Usually, the 4 of us handle all the matters of Star Palace together, Axe 1 Master said. 7 Emotions, greetings, young Palace Master, 7 Emotions Master said respectfully. In fact, 7 Emotions Master had doubted Jen Wushuang at the beginning. However, as Jen Wushuang's progress became faster and faster, it had only been 100,000 years, becoming the #1 Principal's Master in this territory, 7 Emotions Master had completely submitted to Jen Wushuang. Young Palace Master? Jen Wushuang smiled faintly. This title sounds a little awkward. From now on, you should call me Heavenly Sword Marquis Friend as before. Upon hearing this, Axe 1 Master and the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. The status of Star Palace Young Palace Master was definitely much higher than the 4 of them. Coupled with Jen Wushuang's absolute strength, they had no choice but to treat Jen Wushuang with great respect and even caution. It was almost the same as when they faced the Palace Master of Star Palace. But now, Jen Wushuang's simple words made them feel a lot more relaxed. Obviously, although Jen Wushuang had reached the stage where they could only look up to him, his attitude toward them was very gentle and did not put on any airs, which made them feel much more comfortable. For, although Palace Master has given me the identity of the young Palace Master, the 4 of you will manage the Star Palace from now on. I won't interfere. However, the many resources in the Star Palace, Jen Wushuang had not finished his words. Don't worry, my friend. Palace Master has ordered that you can use any resources in the Star Palace at your will. However, in order to maintain the normal order of the Star Palace, you just need to let me know what resources you use, Axe 1 Master said. Okay. Jen Wushuang nodded. Then he looked at Axe 1 Master and said, Axe 1 Master, I asked you to find out some information for me. Is there any result now? Before he set off for the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley, he had specifically asked Axe 1 Master to find out information about Ice Heart Glazed Jade and Master Star Luo. It had been almost 100,000 years, so there should have been a result. As expected, Axe 1 Master said with a serious expression, Heavenly Sword Marquis, my young friend, I have tried my best to do the 2 things you asked me to inquire about. The first is the Ice Heart Glazed Jades. I told you before that a total of 3 pieces of Ice Heart Glazed Jades were born in this territory. One of the first 2 pieces was destroyed on the spot, and the other piece was taken by a ruler to save his wife. The last piece was obtained by the Earth Saint Star Master. Earth Saint Star Master is a reclusive and bloodthirsty ruler realm expert. Over the years, I've tried to contact him on behalf of Star Palace to exchange for the Ice Heart Glazed Jade. However, Earth Saint Star Master sent me a message. What message? Jen Wushuang asked. Earth Saint Star Master's original words were, I don't have the Ice Heart Glazed Jade. Get lost and don't bother me. After receiving this message, I haven't had any further contact with Earth Saint Star Master, Axe 1 Master said. Jen Wushuang frowned slightly. In the past 100,000 years, Axe 1 Master had only had one contact with the Earth Saint Star Master, but this one contact was enough to show Star Saint Master's attitude. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks Axe 1 Master. Have you ever asked him if he really doesn't have the Icy Heart Glazed Jade? Jen Wushuang asked. Of course I want to ask, but the Earth Saint Star Master didn't give me a second chance. Besides, he has already spoken, so I don't dare to pester him anymore. After all, everyone in this territory knows that the Earth Saint Star Master is a crazy person who likes to kill and is terrifyingly strong. Even my Star Palace would not dare to provoke such a person, Axe 1 Master said helplessly. Jen Wushuang nodded slightly. He also understood the helplessness of Axe 1 Master. Earth Saint Star Master was indeed not to be trifled with. Not only was Earth Saint Star Master powerful, but he also had many tricks up his sleeve. Even if he asked Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor to deal with Earth Saint Star Master personally, they might not be able to take him down completely. Moreover, Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor had been busy trying to find a way for him to get the Netherfire Blood Crystal and the Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Sword. How could he make any requests to the three rulers at this time? Forget it. I'll put Earth Saint Star Master aside for now. After the three rulers have gathered what I need, and I've truly broken through to become a Principal's Master, I'll go to Earth Saint Star myself. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. What about Star Luo Master? Have you heard anything about her over the years? Jian Wushuang asked again. I've investigated her thoroughly, but I've never heard of her. I'm sure that she either doesn't wander around the territory, has no contact with anyone, or has never revealed her strength or identity, Axe One Master said. No news at all? Jian Wushuang's face darkened. It's not that there's no news at all. Axe One Master changed the topic. I've asked around, but I did get a piece of news. It might be related to Star Luo Master. Oh! Jian Wushuang immediately looked over. That was more than 80,000 years ago. During the period when they were trapped in the deepest part of Devil's Smoke Valley and lost their tracks, someone once met a mysterious female ruler in the deepest part of Red Rock Mountain, one of the three battlefields. Not only was the ruler beautiful, but she was also accompanied by a beautiful woman who had reached the level of Principal's Master. If I'm not mistaken, that woman should be the disciple of the female ruler. Axe One Master said. A beautiful ruler with a beautiful female disciple? Jian Wushuang was stunned. She had seen Star Luo Master, and she was indeed extremely beautiful. As for Lung Rushue, her body was Lung Rushuang, and her beauty was almost incomparable. After so many years, under the guidance of Star Luo Master, Lung Rushue had reached the level of Principal's Master. It was normal. In this case, the ruler in the depths of Crimson Rock Mountain had a beautiful female disciple with him. It was very likely that they were Star Luo Master and Lung Rushue. What happened after that? Jian Wushuang immediately asked. Chapter 36:12, Netherfire Blood Crystal. There was no later. Axe One Master shook her head. The female ruler and her disciple only appeared once and did not attack. After that, no one has seen them or anyone has seen them, but our Star Palace did not find them. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. In his opinion, the female ruler and her disciple who appeared in the depths of Crimson Rock Mountain were likely to be Star Luo Master and Lung Rushue, but unfortunately, Star Palace's intelligence could only find them this time, and it was more than 80,000 years ago. Axe One Master, please continue to investigate this matter, Jian Wushuang said. Yes. Axe One Master nodded. There's nothing else. Everyone, go on with your work. After saying this, Jian Wushuang turned around and left. After that, Jian Wushuang made a trip to the Supreme Treasure House and left a moment later. Before leaving, he took the Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Sword mentioned by Daoist Shen God, as well as many treasures that were helpful in integrating the destruction principles, the space-time principles, and the reincarnation principles. In addition, Jian Wushuang also took a flying and domain supreme treasure. As the young palace master of Star Palace, he could freely use the many resources of Star Palace, including the many supreme treasures and treasures in the Supreme Treasure Vault. As long as he felt that they were useful, he could take them without paying any price. However, although Jian Wushuang took these things, he still left some of the treasures that he had collected over the years in the Supreme Treasure Vault. For example, the top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Weapon left by the Star Thunder Ruler, the Shadow Devil Thunderstick. There was also the Axe, which was a top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure, and the Spear, which was a top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure, which he had obtained when he first entered the special spacetime. These treasures were all extremely valuable. After leaving the Supreme Treasure Vault, Jian Wushuang returned to his residence and began to cultivate in seclusion. He had met with 3 master-level experts, namely Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor. After knowing the reason, he felt even more stressed and could not afford to slack off. After all, he did not know when Devil Cloudstar Master would personally come. Once he arrived, the final battle would begin immediately. Before that, all he had to do was try his best to increase his strength. Right now, the fastest way to increase his strength was to fuse the 3 principles and break through to become a Principal's Master. Once he broke through, His strength would definitely reach a whole new level, and he could even completely rival a ruler. 9 years passed in the blink of an eye. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks in this territory, on an Earth star that was quite far away from the Star Palace. Rumble. 3 terrifying auras descended at the same time, pressing down on this Earth star. There were quite a few Principal's Masters on this Earth star, and when they felt these 3 auras, they instantly began to tremble, and their hearts trembled. In the void at the center of this Earth star, a cold middle-aged man who was over 3 meters tall stood there, looking around at the source of the 3 auras. He frowned deeply. He was the master of this planet. He was also the most famous person in this territory, Ruler Guyo. Star Palace Master, Temporal Temple Master, and the Empyrean Patriarch, the 3 of you came from the incomparably distant primordial star world. If you were to travel here by foot, it would probably take thousands of years. Even if you were able to rely on a cosmic tunnel, the price you would have to pay for such a long-distance teleportation is incredibly high. Even though you know this, the 3 of you still came, Ruler Guyo said in a low voice. Guyo, let's cut to the chase. You should know why the 3 of us are here. Hand over the Netherfire blood crystal, and the 3 of us will leave immediately. Otherwise, Daoist Shen God's eyes turned cold. In another void, the Temporal Temple Master's face flickered. Instantly, boundless spacetime energy swept out, completely sealing off the surrounding spacetime. Ruler Gaia's face sank as he glanced at the Temporal Temple Master. It's rumored that this Temporal Temple Master's understanding and usage of the spacetime laws have already reached the peak. Now that I look at it, it seems that this is indeed the case. With him around, I don't even have the chance to escape. If these 3 rulers join forces and attack me at the same time, I'm definitely no match for them. Taking a deep breath, Ruler Guyo raised his head again. Is it worth the trouble of the 3 of you for a Netherfire blood crystal? Of course it is, Heaven Ancestor growled. Guyo, hand over the Netherfire blood crystal honestly. The conditions I promised you will not change. However, if you continue to be stubborn, be careful that this ruler of yours will really die here. It's just a single Netherfire blood crystal. Although it is of some use to me, it isn't enough for me to risk my life for it. The reason I rejected you earlier was because I wanted you to pay an even greater price. Now that you have gone through so much trouble, you can just take the Netherfire blood crystal. Ruler Guyo waved his hand. Instantly, a streak of blood-colored light shot toward the Empyrean Lord. The Heaven Ancestor stretched out his hand to receive it. After giving it a sweeping glance, he nodded toward Daoist Shen God and the Temporal Temple Master. Now that they had acquired the Netherfire blood crystal, the 3 of them naturally had no plans to attack. Ruler Guyo, we've offended you in many ways today, but the Netherfire blood crystal is of great importance to us. We can only come up with this plan. I'm sorry. This is what I promised you previously. The Heaven Ancestor waved his hand, tossing an interspatial ring to Ruler Guyo. Then, the 3 of them left. Seeing the 3 of them leave, the cultivators on this Earth star let out a heavy sigh. As for Guyo Ruler, after he received the Heaven Ancestor's interspatial ring, he glanced at it and his expression became strange. Although the Netherfire blood crystal is rare, it shouldn't be too important to a ruler. However, these 3 people actually paid such a high price to rush here from the Divine Beginning realm just for a Netherfire blood crystal. They actually came to kill me? What is the use of the Netherfire blood crystal to them? The Guyo ruler frowned, but he did not think too much about it. As for what happened today, it was a bit aggrieved for him. However, facing 3 rulers at the same time, and one of them was a ruler who had reached the peak of spacetime, he had no choice but to bow his head. After that, the other party had apologized to him personally and left him some face. Therefore, he did not hold a grudge. At most, he felt a little unhappy. After the Daoist Shen God trio obtained the Netherfire blood crystal from the Guyo ruler, they immediately returned to Star Palace as fast as they could. They handed over the Netherfire blood crystal and the other treasures on the list that Jian Wushuang had given them. All of them were given to Jian Wushuang. Chapter 36:13. No feeling. After collecting all the treasures, Jian Wushuang started to cultivate the supreme eternal celestial body without any delay. This cultivation lasted for 80 years. After 80 years, Jian Wushuang finally succeeded in cultivating the first level of the supreme eternal celestial body. Is this a divine body comparable to a supreme treasure? Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and felt his divine body. His eyes lit up. This feeling is so powerful. It was not as if he had never encountered a body-refining secret skill before. When he was weak, he had cultivated the primordial void celestial body, a body-refining secret skill of the ancient clan, which was one of the 4 great divine clans. However, although the primordial void celestial body was one of the top 10 body-refining secret skills in the divine beginning realm, it was not very helpful to Principal's masters. When he cultivated this secret skill to the top, it would only be of little help to the Principal's master. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had stopped cultivating this secret skill a long time ago. However, the supreme imperishable celestial body was different. The supreme imperishable celestial body was a secret skill that came from the inner heart of the planet Lingyun. Planet Lingyun used to be an ruler in the deepest part of the universe, and there were many supreme experts. The supreme imperishable celestial body, when cultivated to an extremely high level, was of great help to rulers and even supreme experts. It was also of great help to the Principal's master. It was even more helpful. Jian Wushuang was only at the level of the immortal saint now. It was also because of the magic of the perfect life that he could barely cultivate the first level of the supreme level immortal Shen body. Once he cultivated it, his divine body could be comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure, a divine body at the level of an elementary universe supreme treasure. How strong was such a divine body? Jian Wushuang did not know. He could only feel that his current divine body was very strong, hundreds or thousands of times stronger than before. How much help would this divine body be to his strength? Let's try it. With a smile on his face, Jian Wushuang slowly stood up and left his residence. Soon, Jian Wushuang found the woodcutter who was chopping trees in the special tower, which was the Heaven Ancestor. The 4 masters of the Star Palace camp, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, stayed in the divine beginning realm all year round to guard the seal. After Daoist Shen God and the Heaven Ancestor obtained the Netherfire Blood Crystal, they left the Star Palace to help Jian Wushuang find the supreme treasure Divine Sword. As for the Temporal Temple Master, he also went to the Quicksand Demon area, one of the 3 battlefields. Now, only the Heaven Ancestor was still in the Star Palace. "Little guy, why did you come to see me?" The Heaven Ancestor looked at Jian Wushuang. "I did." Jian Wushuang smiled. "I just mastered a secret skill, but I don't know its exact power. That's why I wanted to practice it with you, Senior Heaven Ancestor." "Is that so?" The Heaven Ancestor raised his eyebrows. "Then what do you need me to do?" "It's very simple. Senior Heaven Ancestor, you just need to attack me with all your strength," Jian Wushuang said. "That's it." The Heaven Ancestor was stunned for a moment, but then he smiled and said, "All right, but you have to be careful. After all, I'm a ruler, and my attacks are not something an ordinary person can withstand. I'm confident. Senior Heaven Ancestor, you just need to focus on your attacks," Jian Wushuang said with great confidence. "All right, be careful." The Heaven Ancestor did not waste any time. He raised the axe in his hand, which had been chopping trees. Jian Wushuang had used this axe before, so it looked just like an ordinary mortal's axe, but now, in the hands of the Heaven Ancestor, it suddenly revealed an earth-shaking power. This power carried an extremely powerful aura. Supreme True Treasure. Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, he had been cultivating with this axe for a long time and had thought that it was very ordinary. But now, it seemed that he was too weak to sense the real power of the axe. There were not many supreme true treasures, even among experts at the ruler realm, but the Heaven Ancestor had one. "I'm coming." As soon as the Heaven Ancestor finished his words, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang as if he had teleported. The axe he raised also fell straight down. Whoosh! It was a light axe, but the moment he swung it, he felt as if everything was torn apart. Seeing the axe falling down, Jian Wushuang did not move at all. He did not have any intention of waving his sword to block it. This kid isn't going to block it. The heaven ancestor frowned. Does he want to use his divine body to block my axe? Clang. The axe struck Jen Wushuang's body without any resistance. The terrifying power burst out and left a white mark on the armor on Jen Wushuang's body. However, Jen Wushuang still stood there unscathed until the power of the axe was completely exhausted. His expression did not change at all. How could it be? The heaven ancestor was shocked. Haha, heaven ancestor, you put too much water in, right? A voice with a smile sounded. That's right. If you put too much water in, you'll lose face. Another gentle voice sounded. Two blurry figures appeared in the void out of thin air. These two people were, of course, Daoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master. However, they were not their original bodies. They were just consciousness incarnations left in the Star Palace. Although they were consciousness avatars and did not have much battle strength, their vision was still there. Senior Heaven Ancestor, how much strength did you use with your axe just now? Jen Wushuang looked over. 10%, Heaven Ancestor said. He was worried that his attack would be too powerful and hurt Jen Wushuang, so he deliberately suppressed his strength. Although he only used 10% of his strength, an expert at the ruler realm could crush any principal's master under normal circumstances. Unexpectedly, only 10% of his strength. No wonder I didn't feel anything, Jen Wushuang said. You didn't feel anything? The Heaven Ancestor was stunned. Haha, Heaven Ancestor, you have to work harder. Otherwise, this little guy will look down on you. Daoist Shen God laughed very happily. No, I don't mean to look down on Senior Heaven Ancestor. It's just that I really didn't feel anything from Senior Heaven Ancestor's axe just now. Jen Wushuang spread his hands and said. He was telling the truth. He had the Blood Demon Cave armor to protect him, so he could directly weaken the ruler realm attack by more than 90%. The remaining 10% of the power would be absorbed by his divine body, which meant that the strike from the Heaven Ancestor, only less than 1% of the power was used on his divine body. With his divine body, which was comparable to a supreme treasure, he could indeed ignore this 1% of the power. Heaven Ancestor, try 50% of your strength, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Heaven Ancestor nodded slightly. Before, he was afraid of hurting Jen Wushuang, so he did not dare to use too much strength. But now that he knew Jen Wushuang's ability to protect his body, he was not so cautious. Soon, Heaven Ancestor attacked again. Chapter 36:14. The divine body was comparable to a supreme treasure whoosh. The axe still swung out, and its speed was extremely fast. Like a bolt of lightning, it landed on Jen Wushuang's body in an instant. Rumble. A terrifying power burst out in an instant. The strike of the Heaven Ancestor with 50% of its power could be said to be earth-shattering. However, Jen Wushuang only trembled slightly and took 2 steps back, but he immediately stopped. How was it? The Heaven Ancestor, Daoist Shen God, and Temporal Temple Master all looked at Jen Wushuang. Yes, it's much stronger than the previous strike. However, it still hasn't broken through the limit of my divine body, Jen Wushuang said. What do you mean? The Heaven Ancestor asked. That is to say, Senior Heaven Ancestor, your axe didn't cause any damage to my divine body, so it can't destroy my divine power, Jen Wushuang said. Jen Wushuang said it tactfully, but the 3 Heaven Ancestors immediately understood. You didn't use any of your divine power? It's intact. How is that possible? The Heaven Ancestor widened his eyes. Even Daoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master were surprised. The Heaven Ancestor used 50% of his power to attack Jen Wushuang with his axe, but he still could not do any damage to Jen Wushuang. Heaven Ancestor, use your full strength, Temporal Temple Master said in a low voice. Yes, not only use your full strength, but also use the secret skill you created, Daoist Shen God said. Okay. The Heaven Ancestor nodded solemnly, and his eyes became sharp. Use your full strength. Jen Wushuang licked his lips, but there was an excited smile on his face. Boom. The Heaven Ancestor's body shook, and his terrifying power burst out without any concealment. For a moment, the terrifying power of the ruler realm filled this special space. Indestructible, God Slayer. The heaven ancestor raised the huge axe in his hands at the same time. With a low shout, the huge axe was brought down. Hua! A shocking axe shadow appeared in this space-time. As soon as the axe shadow appeared, the space-time began to tremble crazily, as if it could not withstand the power. Indeed, although this space-time was created by the heaven ancestor, and its endurance was extraordinary, the heaven ancestor was giving it his all. Furthermore, he had used his ultimate technique. This was the full power attack of a ruler realm expert. It was normal that the space-time could not withstand it. Good timing. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up when he saw the axe shadow coming at him. However, he had no intention of dodging it. He just stood there quietly and let the axe shadow come at him. His heart was filled with anticipation. Don't disappoint me with the supreme imperishable celestial body. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. With endless anticipation, the earth-shaking axe finally struck his divine body. In an instant, rumble, a large area of space cracks appeared, and the space began to collapse crazily. In the center of the space-time, Jian Wushuang was immediately sent flying. He was sent flying to the edge of the space-time and crashed into the space-time barrier. The astonishing power contained in the axe also rushed into Jian Wushuang's divine body. Jian Wushuang stood there with his eyes closed. In the void in front of him, Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the heaven ancestor had stood together again. They all frowned slightly. I wonder how the little guy is doing, Temporal Temple Master said with some worry. If the heaven ancestor's axe didn't hurt him at all, he should be fine even if it did, Daoist Shen God said. You two asked me to use all my strength. Don't blame me if I hurt him badly. The heaven ancestor rolled his eyes and said. While the three of them were waiting, Jian Wushuang finally opened his eyes and rushed in front of them. Little guy, how was the result? Daoist Shen God immediately looked over. As expected of senior heaven ancestor. The power of the axe just now was indeed very strong. It could already hurt me, Jian Wushuang said. Hurt you? The heaven ancestor looked strange. How badly? Well, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Let me use up 1,000th of my divine power. Excuse me? Heaven ancestor, Daoist Shen God, Time and Temporal Temple Master are all stunned. 1 in 10,000? An expert at the level of a ruler attacked Jian Wushuang with all his strength without any hindrance. As a result, Jian Wushuang only lost 1/10 of his divine power. 1 in 10,000? How could that be called a loss? Little guy, is what you said true? Did you really only use 1 out of 10,000 of your divine power? Daoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange expression. That's true. Jian Wushuang nodded. Senior heaven ancestor's attack just exceeded the limit of my divine body and caused a little damage to my divine body. I only used 1/10,000 of my divine power to completely recover from this little damage. Impossible, this is impossible. Heaven ancestor shook his head crazily. He growled, even an expert at the same level as a ruler, who is good at defense, can't only use 1 out of 10,000 of his divine power as long as he doesn't have a supreme true treasure armor. What he said was the truth. The full-strength strike of a ruler realm expert was so powerful that even a ruler would suffer some damage if he took it head-on. But what Jian Wushuang said now was only 1,000th of his divine power, which was incredible. Senior heaven ancestor, you don't have to be amazed. Jian Wushuang smiled. During my years in Devil Smoke Valley, I've indeed obtained an extraordinary opportunity. One of them is an incomparably powerful body-refining secret technique. This secret technique is of an extremely high level. The list I gave you before is the list of the natural treasures needed to cultivate this secret technique. Now, the first level of that secret technique has already been refined by me, and after refining it, my godly body is already comparable to a low-level universe true treasure. What? Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were all shocked. A supreme treasure? Little guy, you said your divine body is comparable to a universe supreme treasure. The three masters looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. It's like this. Jian Wushuang nodded again. It's because my divine body is comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure that I dared to withstand the attack of senior heaven ancestor. The power of the heaven ancestor's axe just now was indeed extremely powerful. However, I have the supreme true treasure armor to protect my body. The power of the supreme true treasure armor was reduced by more than 90% at the first moment. Less than 10% of the power of the axe was used on my divine body. My divine body is comparable to an elementary universe true treasure, so less than 10% of the power was barely able to reach my limit. That's why it caused me a bit of damage. Chapter 36:15. Walk horizontally. Zhen Wushuang had explained in great detail how he had received the blow, and it was the truth. However, Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were still confused and shocked. After a long time, the three finally managed to regain their senses, but their faces were still filled with shock and disbelief. A godly body comparable to a universe supreme treasure? This is simply inconceivable. That's right. We've roamed this territory for so long, and we've come into contact with some of the surrounding territories, but we've never heard of anyone with a godly body that's as powerful as a universe supreme treasure. Incredible, truly incredible. The three rulers were also very excited at this moment. After a while, little guy, you just said that you've only mastered the first level of the secret skill? Temporal Temple Master suddenly looked at Zhen Wushuang. Yes. Zhen Wushuang nodded. The level of the secret skill is very high. Just by mastering the first level of the divine body, it can be comparable to an elementary universe true treasure, and by mastering the second level, it can be comparable to an advanced universe true treasure, and so on. Unfortunately, the threshold for cultivating the secret skill is very high. The first level alone requires a principal's master to cultivate it. I can barely master the first level because of my perfect life form. In addition, during the process of cultivating this secret art, you will need some natural treasures to assist you. In addition, these natural treasures are extremely rare and precious. For example, the first level's natural treasures can be acquired in our territory, but the second level's natural treasures are hundreds of times more valuable and rare than the first level's natural treasures. It is virtually impossible to find them in this territory. In other words, you can only cultivate the first level in this territory. Daoist Shen God asked. Yes, if you want to cultivate the second level, you have to leave this territory and go to the deepest part of the universe. Only there can you find the genius earthly treasures needed to cultivate the second level, Zhen Wushuang said. That's a pity. Daoist Shen God sighed. Yes, the first level alone is so heaven-defying. If you have the chance to cultivate the second level, then you are truly invincible in this territory. Your divine body is comparable to an advanced universe supreme treasure. Who can shake it? The heaven ancestor also sighed. However, even if you can't cultivate the second level, just the first level alone is already incredible. This is definitely a big surprise for us, Temporal Temple Master said. Yes, a big surprise. This is definitely a big surprise. Daoist Shen God was also excited. A divine body comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure, coupled with a pinnacle universe supreme treasure armor, even if you take a full-strength attack from a ruler realm expert, you only use 1/10 of your divine power. This means that you can completely ignore an ordinary elementary ruler. Even if you stand in front of him, he probably won't be able to do anything to you. Upon hearing this, Zhen Wushuang could not help but smile. Indeed, he had now experienced two primary rulers. One was the tall man from the Three Saint Realms who had ambushed him in Devil's Smoke Valley, and the other was the Heaven Ancestor. In terms of strength, the tall man from the Three Saint Realms was probably stronger, but he was definitely not much stronger. Now that the Heaven Ancestor's full-strength attack had hit his body, it had only consumed 1 out of 10,000 of his divine power. It was like scratching an itch and could not shake him at all. After all, the speed at which he absorbed divine power was even faster than this. And that tall man's full-strength attack could only cause 2 out of 10,000 damage to him at most. It still could not affect him much. Besides, if he were to really fight against a ruler, there was no way he would just stand there and allow his opponent to attack him. If that was the case, then in this territory, a junior ruler really would not be able to do anything to him. It's not just a junior ruler. Even a senior ruler like the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master wouldn't be able to do anything to your godly body, Daoist Shen God said with a laugh. Yes, with your current divine body and the protection of your supreme true treasure armor, you can completely ignore a primary ruler. As for a senior ruler, he can barely hurt you, but it's impossible for him to threaten your life. Even if 2 or 3 senior rulers joined forces, it would be difficult for them to kill you. The only one who can really threaten you is probably a top-tier ruler, but as far as I know, there's only one such ruler in this territory. And that ruler has always paid attention to his status. He doesn't have any enmity with my Star Palace, so he won't come to deal with you for no reason. In other words, you can almost do whatever you want in this territory now, the Heaven Ancestor said with a smile. Jian Wushuang also smiled. He knew that once he mastered the first level of the Supreme Eternal Celestial Body, his life-saving ability would be greatly enhanced. In this territory, there were very few people who could kill him. At least, he did not have to care too much about ordinary rulers. Of course, you should not be too conceited. After all, the Devil Cloud Star Master definitely has the strength to kill you, Daoist Shen God suddenly said. Jian Wushuang was stunned, and his expression became serious. Indeed, his biggest enemy, Devil Cloud Star Master, was a master of a second-grade star world. He had dozens of masters under his command, and experts of that level had long reached the peak of the master realm. Of course, they had the strength to kill him. Not only that, as far as I know, Devil Cloud Star Master also has an extremely special supreme treasure in his hand. That supreme treasure is different from the others, and it has an extremely special power. That power is the bane of all special life forms. When the 7-star mysterious sect was destroyed, Xianyi was heavily injured by that supreme treasure and lost most of his divine power, which was why he died, Daoist Shen God said seriously. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. Senior Shen God, is the supreme treasure you mentioned a spear? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, you know it. Daoist Shen God looked at him in surprise. I was lucky enough to see a picture of that battle in the 7-star divine realm. In the picture, my master Shen Yi was pierced through the heart by a spear. That attack should be fatal to him, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, it was that spear that caused your master Shen Yi's death, Daoist Shen God said seriously. Your master Shen Yi is also a peerless genius. He has also obtained many great opportunities. Not only is his strength extremely strong, but he also has perfect control over the mountain river map as a supreme treasure. At the same time, he also obtained a heaven suppression tablet by chance. Chapter 36:16, The Heaven Suppressing Tablet. Heaven Suppressing Tablet? Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Of course, he was familiar with the Heaven Suppressing Tablet. In his previous life, Di Shisan had taken him to a Heaven Suppressing Tablet, and through it, he had obtained an extraordinary opportunity. At that time, he had heard from Di Shisan that there were 9 Heaven Suppression Tablets, and one alone was enough to shock the world. If the 9 Heaven Suppression Tablets were gathered together, they could suppress the world. One could imagine how powerful the Heaven Suppression Tablet was. The Mountain River Map, the 2 supreme treasures Xian Yi had, is the most powerful one in the domain category. It should be in your hands now. Daoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's in my hands. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The Mountain River Map had been his most powerful supreme treasure since his last life. It was also one of his most powerful trump cards. He would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, he knew that this supreme treasure was extraordinary. In addition, he had never fully exerted the power of this supreme treasure since he got it. Even when he was on Sohar Island, the power of the entire Bloodwave realm was infused into his body because of the Bloodwaves. It had allowed him to possess the combat power of a ruler for a short period of time. However, even so, he was still unable to fully unleash the power of the Mountain River Map. For example, the most terrifying killing move of the Mountain River Map, the 9 Dragons Heaven-Cleaving Great Formation, had only been able to unleash the 2 Dragons Heaven-Cleaving Great Formation. One had to know that the most powerful move of the Nine Dragons' Heaven-Cleaving Great Formation was the Nine Dragons' Heaven-Cleaving Great Formation. Moreover, the Mountain River map was a domain-type supreme treasure. Its most terrifying technique was a domain, not an offensive technique. However, the most powerful domain of the Mountain River map, he could not use it. A domain-type supreme treasure? Master really gave me a good treasure, Jian Wushuang sighed. He had never been clear about the level of the Mountain River map. Before he came to the universe battlefield, he thought the map was a top-tier universe supreme treasure, but after arriving here, he immediately changed his mind. After all, he had come into contact with many supreme treasures. A top-tier universe supreme treasure could never have such tyrannical power and could not be used by him. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had guessed at that time that the Mountain River map might be a supreme true treasure. Now, it seemed that it was true. A supreme treasure, a domain-type supreme treasure, might not be able to unleash its full power even if it was a ruler realm expert. He was just a saint, and even if he had the invincible battle strength of a principal's master, how could he unleash its full power? As a domain-type supreme treasure, the Mountain River map is coveted by countless ruler realm experts. Back then, Xian Yi relied on this supreme treasure to fight against several rulers at the same time. However, the Mountain River map was not Xian Yi's supreme treasure. His true supreme treasure was still the Heaven Suppression Tablet. Daoist Shen God's voice was low. The heaven-suppressing monoliths were obtained by Xian Yi from the core of the Quicksand Demon Realm, one of the 3 great battlefields. There were a total of 9 heaven-suppressing monoliths, and only 3 of them appeared in the Quicksand Demon Realm. However, even if only 3 of them appeared in the Quicksand Demon Realm, the commotion they caused was still unbelievably huge. As he spoke up to this point, Daoist Shen God could not help but exclaim in admiration. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, that was indeed a huge commotion. The Temporal Temple Master nodded as well. The 3 great battlefields have existed in this territory for so many years, and countless treasures have been born within them. Even supreme treasures have been born before. Every time a supreme treasure is born, there will be some commotion. However, there has never been a supreme treasure that has been born that is comparable to the birth of the heaven-suppressing tablet. That scene not only shocked the entire Quicksand Demon area, but even the other 2 battlefields and the territory were in can sense the astonishing energy fluctuation. The entire territory can sense the fluctuation? Jian Wushuang was shocked. After all, the territory he was in was extremely vast. There were dozens of astral worlds, and these astral worlds were connected to each other. Even him, who traveled at the speed of a principal's master, it would take hundreds or even thousands of years to reach here. These were only 2 astral worlds that were connected to each other. From this, one could imagine how vast the entire territory was. However, when the heaven-suppressing tablet appeared, the commotion it caused could actually affect the entire territory. At that time, the commotion was too great, causing all the experts in this territory to be alarmed. Countless experts even dared to head into the depths of the Quicksand Demon Realm like madmen, including many rulers. In the end, it caused the most intense battle in this territory. During that battle, I remember that there were a total of 18 rulers who participated in it. As for the principal's masters, there were countless of them. There were so many experts who wanted to obtain the heaven-suppressing monument, yet there were only 3. Hence, the frenzied battle began. In the end, the 3 rulers died on the spot. As for the principal's masters, a large number of them died. No one even bothered to count them. In the end, 2 of the 3 heaven suppression tablets fell into the hands of 2 extremely powerful rulers in this territory. As for the other one, it was obtained by your master Xian Yi. Master actually obtained a heaven suppression tablet from that multi-ruler expert? Jian Wushuang could not help exclaiming. He knew that his master was only a principal's master at his peak. Although his battle strength was comparable to a ruler, there were a total of 18 rulers on the battlefield. In the end, a total of 3 rulers died. How difficult would it be to obtain a heaven suppression tablet from that multiple ruler? At that time, your master's combat power was only comparable to that of a low-level ruler. He was considered average among the 18 rulers. However, He had many tricks up his sleeve, and his life-saving abilities were even more impressive. Most importantly, he still had the Mountain River country map, a domain-type supreme true treasure. In addition, he was only a principal's master. Those rulers didn't guard against him in the beginning, which was why he was able to succeed. Daoist Shen God smiled and said, when your master obtained the heaven-suppressing tablet, his strength reached a whole new level, and he could even rival a superior ruler. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Why? Isn't it incredible? Daoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. According to Daoist Shen God, his master was only comparable to a primary ruler at that time. However, after obtaining the heaven-suppressing tablet, he was now comparable to a superior ruler. A superior ruler was 2 levels higher than a primary ruler, and there were probably no more than 3 such rulers in this territory. A treasure could allow Shen Yi's battle strength to go from a primary ruler to a superior ruler and directly match a superior ruler. Chapter 36:17, 3,000 years of closed-door cultivation. What level is the heaven suppression tablet? Jian Wushuang asked in shock. The heaven suppression tablet was so terrifying that someone with the battle strength of a primary ruler could instantly rival a superior ruler. I don't know what level it is, but I'm sure it's more powerful than a supreme treasure. Only supreme beings are qualified to use such a treasure. Daoist Shen God paused for a moment, then he said seriously, little guy, there's only one reason why I'm telling you so much. Your master is as strong as a superior ruler. Although he doesn't have your terrifying divine body, which is comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure, the treasure in his hand is extremely powerful. Even so, he still died under that special spear. There's no room for struggle. So, you must be very vigilant against that spear. In the future, if you meet an expert invited by the 3 Saint Realms and see him take out a strange spear, don't hesitate and run away immediately. Do you understand? I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. He knew that it was the existence of that special spear that caused his master's death. He did not want to follow in his master's footsteps. Of course, he had to be wary of that spear, which had a great restraining effect on any special life form. By the way, I've seen Master's heaven-suppressing tablet before, Jian Wushuang said. It's not strange. Daoist Shen God smiled. Although your master died, he left a way out for the 7-star mysterious sect. He sealed the entire 7-star divine realm and kept all his treasures. He gave you the Mountain River map, but the heaven suppression tablet is too high level. You were too weak to refine it. But the heaven suppression tablet must be left to you in the end. After you break through to become a principal's master and break the seal, you can go to the heaven suppression tablet and try to refine it. Once you refine the heaven suppression tablet, your strength will certainly reach a new level. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The heaven suppression tablet, Jian Wushuang had a trace of desire in his heart to make Shen Yi, who only had the strength of a primary ruler, a supreme treasure that could rival a superior ruler in one leap. Well, continue to cultivate. Daoist Shen God waved his hand and said. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully to the 3 rulers in front of him and then turned to leave. After Jian Wushuang left, the 3 rulers began to chat again. This little guy is worthy of being created by Shen Yi, who gathered all the heavenly Tao and good fortune in the 7-star divine realm and the divine beginning realm. He is even more blessed than Shen Yi, Daoist Shen God said. Yes, a body-refining secret skill that can make your divine body comparable to a universe supreme treasure. I've never heard of it before. It's too abnormal. Such a secret skill must come from the deepest part of the universe. In the deepest part of the universe, only some big forces can have it. To be able to get such a secret skill, it's really extraordinary. The heaven ancestor sighed. Not only that, he also had a special opportunity in the Bloodwave realm. The master of the Bloodwave realm is undoubtedly a super powerful warrior from the depths of the universe. However, such a powerful warrior helped him with all his strength during the battle on the Sohar Island. He even caused the entire Bloodwave realm to collapse. It can be seen that their relationship is no small matter. After he came out from the Bloodwave realm, His power has soared. It can be seen that the opportunity he got in the Bloodwave realm is not small either. Temporal Temple Master chuckled. He already has a heaven-defying opportunity. With the help of us and the things Shen Yi prepared for him, he has thousands of opportunities in his body. If he can't take the final step, there won't be anyone else in the divine beginning realm who has the same opportunity as him. The three sighed. Soon, Daoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master gradually disappeared. The Heaven Ancestor continued to pick up the axe in his hand and began to chop the trees next to him. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Jian Wushuang returned to the courtyard where he lived, but his heart was still very heavy. The supreme-level immortal Shen body did not disappoint me. It's comparable to a divine body of an elementary universe supreme treasure, so I don't have to care about ordinary elementary rulers or even advanced rulers now. However, just as Senior Shen God said, Devil Cloudstar has a treasure that is specialized in restraining special life forms. My master died under that long spear. Although my current body protection ability may be stronger than my master's, that long spear can still pose a fatal threat to me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Keep cultivating. I need to fuse the three rules as soon as possible and break through to become a principal's master. When that happens, my strength will skyrocket. If I can refine the heaven suppression tablet again, I might be even stronger than my master when he was at his peak. By then, even if my opponent has the special spear, as long as the real body of Devil Cloudstar Master doesn't arrive personally, it shouldn't be able to pose a fatal threat to me. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang began to cultivate in seclusion again. This time, he was in seclusion purely to merge the three rules and break through to become a principal's master. Moreover, he had made up his mind that he would not come out of seclusion until he had completely merged the three principles. Time passed quietly. The merging of the three principles was dozens or even hundreds of times more difficult than the previous two principles. However, Jian Wushuang had already mastered the destruction will. After so many years of groping, especially when he was trapped in the 18 Ultimate Formation, the breakthrough in Sword Principle triggered the universe origin of Sword Principle. Although the universe origin was in the aspect of Sword Principle, it was more or less helpful to the various principles of heaven and earth. Because of this, he had already made some progress in the fusion of the three principles. Now, he had obtained a large number of treasures from the Supreme Treasure Vault that combined the destruction principles, the spacetime principles, and the samsara principles. This allowed him to go further and further in the fusion of the three principles. It was not until the 3000th year of Jian Wushuang's seclusion. Finally, he had completely fused the three principles he had comprehended. The three principles of destruction, spacetime, and samsara are perfectly fused. Jian Wushuang sat in the secret chamber with his eyes open, but his eyes were full of surprise and excitement. After 3000 years of secluded cultivation, he had finally taken this step and perfectly integrated the three principles. At the moment of integration, he immediately gained an additional power of will. However, this power of will was not what Jian Wushuang really wanted. What he wanted was to break through the bottleneck that had troubled him for a long time. As I expected, after the three rules were merged, I could clearly sense where the bottleneck was. What I have to do now is to force a breakthrough. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed. Let's begin. The Principal's Master's breakthrough began. Chapter 36:18. Breakthrough. The perfect fusion of the three principles had long exceeded the requirements for an immortal saint to break through to the Principal's Master realm. Even though Jian Wushuang was a perfect being and was extremely restricted by the universe principles, after the fusion of the three principles, he had finally met the requirements for the breakthrough. What he lacked now was a final kick. He had to forcefully kick it away. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang's face was cold and his divine power surged. At the same time, a light cyan divine sword appeared in his hand. This light cyan divine sword was the pinnacle universe supreme treasure he had obtained from the Supreme Treasure Vault. It was called the Cyan Spirit Divine Sword. Compared to the many divine swords he had used before, its blade was not as sharp as before. Such a divine sword would allow Jian Wushuang to display the strongest tearing effect when he used the sword art of laceration. However, the sword with a thicker body was stronger under the gravitational force, so its power was naturally much stronger. Break for me. With a low shout, Jian Wushuang's three principles merged divine power crazily rushed toward the barrier in his body. At the same time, he swung the Cyan Spirit Divine sword in his hand. It was the most powerful skill that Jian Wushuang had created, Starfire Burning Sun. Boom! The space trembled, and Jian Wushuang's body roared crazily. After a while, the barrier in his body collapsed. I've made a breakthrough. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. In fact, it was quite normal. He had already met the requirements for a breakthrough. In addition, he had accumulated enough power before, so it was natural for him to make a breakthrough. As he made a breakthrough, the vast and majestic divine power in his body surged and began to change qualitatively. During the process of the divine power's transformation, the divine power gathered in his body also increased at an incredible speed. The Star Palace. That special tower was the tower where the Empyrean Patriarch was located. Within the special space on the top floor of the tower, the forest had already disappeared. What replaced it was an enormous estate. This estate was incredibly beautiful and majestic. In the center of the estate was a stone pavilion. Daoist Shen God, the temporal temple master, and the Empyrean Patriarch were seated together, casually drinking tea while chatting. That little fellow has been in closed-door training for 3,000 years, right? The Empyrean Patriarch said slowly. Right. It has been 3,000 years. It seems he intends to completely break through to become a principal's master before coming out. I wonder how long he will need, the temporal temple master said. There's no rush. Daoist Shen God just smiled. A long time ago, I sent some people to the territory which Devil Cloudstar is located in. I've been keeping an eye on Devil Cloudstar's movements, and from the information I've received, Devil Cloudstar doesn't have any intentions of personally coming to our territory. He doesn't even have any intentions of sending a few rulers here. As long as Devil Cloudstar doesn't come here in person, we have nothing to worry about. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, that's true. Temporal Temple Master nodded slightly. They already knew that Devil Cloudstar had sent 3 rulers to this territory and that they were staying on the sacred island. However, they did not care about these 3 rulers, even if they were very strong. Moreover, they were not worried about bringing the spear that could restrain Jian Wushuang. With Jian Wushuang's current life-saving skills, it would be too difficult to kill him. What they were afraid of now was Devil Cloudstar Master, who had reached the peak of the ruler realm. If their original body came in person, together with the spear that could restrain Jian Wushuang, that would be a fatal threat to Jian Wushuang. However, since Devil Cloudstar Master did not intend to come to this territory, they were not worried. Not only that, they also said that Devil Cloudstar seems to have caused some trouble recently. The entire planet is very busy. I'm afraid that we won't be able to take care of our territory in a short time, Daoist Shen God said with a smile. Haha, that's great. Temporal Temple Master was overjoyed. This is indeed good news for us. The Heaven Ancestor nodded solemnly. As long as the original body of the Devil Cloudstar Master did not arrive in this territory, they would have one more day to prepare. Jian Wushuang could also have one more day to improve his strength. If the Devil Cloudstar Master delayed for tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years before coming here, that would be even better. After all, with Jian Wushuang's talent and speed of improvement, he might have become a ruler in hundreds of thousands of years. By that time, even if Devil Cloudstar Master noticed it, it would be too late for him to rush over. I just hope that Devil Cloudstar Master can't get away. He can't worry about this place and give the little guy enough time. Even better, he might as well give up on the Divine Beginning Realm completely, Daoist Shen God said. Give up on the Divine Beginning Realm? How is that possible? Temporal Temple Master sneered. To possess an astral world and comprehend the workings and evolution of an astral world is a tremendous opportunity. Even many top rulers and even legendary autarchs would covet it. Why would he give up? Not necessarily. You have to understand that the reason why Planet Devil Cloudstar Master is so crazy about accelerating the evolution of the Divine Beginning Realm is because he wants to squeeze out the potential of the Divine Beginning Realm in order to break through as soon as possible. However, if he has truly broken through and Moryun has caused trouble for his flawless clone, he might really give up on this place, Daoist Shen God said. How can there be so many IFS in this world? In my opinion, it's absolutely impossible for him to give up on the divine beginning realm, the heaven ancestor said seriously. I was just casually saying that. Daoist Shen God smiled awkwardly. Let's not talk about this for now. The temporal temple master waved his hand. Black God, you said earlier that you wanted to get that little fellow a suitable supreme attack treasure. What was the result? That supreme treasure is a bit troublesome, said Daoist Shen God. Why? Can't I get it? Temporal temple master frowned slightly. A supreme treasure was much more powerful than a pinnacle supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang only had a pinnacle supreme treasure divine sword, which he had just obtained. However, if Jian Wushuang could get a supreme treasure divine weapon that was suitable for him, then his attack would definitely be improved. It was going to be a big step up. I can't say that I can't get it at all. It's just that there are some problems, and I can't solve them either. Daoist Shen God pondered for a moment before saying, in short, there are some twists and turns in this process, or wait for the little guy to come out of seclusion, I will tell him in detail. Yes. The temporal temple master and the heaven ancestor all nodded. Two people also did not continue to inquire. And right at this moment, boom, the entire world suddenly shook. Chapter 36:19, Divine Might Unrivaled. The world trembled, and the special spacetime where the three rulers were located began to shake wildly, as though it would collapse at any moment. What's going on? The three rulers, who were chatting leisurely, all had solemn looks on their faces. Such a huge commotion. Could it be? Daoist Shen God glanced at the temporal temple master and the heaven ancestor, only to discover that the latter two were just like him, and their eyes were filled with a hint of excitement. Let's go out and take a look. The three rulers immediately moved out of spacetime, arriving in the void outside the Star Palace. As soon as they left, they immediately sensed the source of that enormous disturbance. As expected, this disturbance came from the place where that little fellow lived. Daoist Shen God was incomparably excited. Haha, it seems that that little fellow has finally made a breakthrough. The temporal temple master was overjoyed as well. They all understood that it was impossible for such a disturbance to appear within the Star Palace for no reason. Without a doubt, it was definitely caused by humans. Under normal circumstances, when a cultivator's strength reached a certain level, their breakthrough would cause some sort of disturbance. Moreover, the higher the level of the breakthrough, the more heaven-defying the cultivator would be, the disturbance that would be caused would also be greater. An ordinary immortal saint breaking through to become a principal's master would also cause some commotion. However, the commotion was not very big and would not attract the attention of the three rulers. The key point was that the commotion that was spreading out at this moment, it was so huge that it caused an uproar in the entire Star Palace. In addition, the source of the commotion was where Jian Wushuang lived. Therefore, there was no doubt that Jian Wushuang had broken through. This little guy did not disappoint us. He broke through to become a principal's master so quickly. What a big commotion. When I broke through from a principal's master to a ruler, the commotion I caused was not as big as his, the heaven ancestor said with a smile. Not good. Daoist Shen God's expression suddenly changed. It's a good thing that the little guy made a breakthrough, but we didn't expect him to cause such a big commotion. We didn't hide anything for him. There are so many cultivators in Star Palace, so they must have known that he made a breakthrough at the first moment. I'm afraid this news can't be hidden. Soon, all the forces in this territory will know, and so will Sacred Island. If you know, then so be it. The temporal temple master waved his hand. Since this little fellow has already broken through, unless he doesn't use his full strength or doesn't meet with a ruler realm expert, he will definitely be exposed. We can't hide it even if we want to. We might as well let the world know. It's not a big deal. Even if that devil Cloud Star Master gets the news, he probably won't be too alert. Yes, Shen Yi had reached the level of Principal's Master and stayed there for a long time, but he was still killed by the Star Master. With Shen Yi's example, The Star Master might not take him seriously, the Heaven Ancestor added. Daoist Shen God was worried that the news of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough would alert the Star Master and speed up his arrival. However, just as the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor had said, the news of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough would spread sooner or later. Moreover, because of Shen Yi's example, Devil Cloud Star Master thought that he could still kill Shen Yi, who had been in the Principal's Master for a long time. Therefore, even if Jian Wushuang was allowed to stay in the Principal's Master realm for a period of time, as long as his original body made a move, he could still kill Jian Wushuang easily and would not take it seriously. Hearing their words, Daoist Shen God frowned and did not say anything more. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's divine power had clearly begun to transform. A terrifying divine power swept out from where he was, covering the entire Star Palace in an instant. This divine power was too strong. It had completely exceeded the scope of Principal's Masters, and it was still improving crazily. Within the Star Palace, other than the three rulers, there were still quite a few Principal's Masters present. When that divine might completely filled the area, these Principal's Masters instantly became extremely terrified. Some of the weaker ones, their legs even began to go weak, and they almost knelt down. Divine might was unrivaled. This divine might suppressed everything in the surroundings, causing all the Principal's Masters within the Star Palace to tremble in fear. This sort of fear was as if they were facing a powerful ruler alone, and that ruler was unleashing all of his divine might to suppress them. They were indescribably terrified. Most importantly, this divine might was still increasing at a terrifying speed. Too terrifying. This divine might is too terrifying. Who is it? Who is emitting this divine might? How can it be so terrifying? Bloodsword Master is Bloodsword Master. The commotion was caused by him, so he must be the one who released the divine power. It's obvious that he has made a breakthrough. A breakthrough? To become a ruler? The Principal's Masters in Star Palace were all shocked. They were both envious and terrified of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough. Bloodsword Master had been recognized as the strongest Principal's Master before he made the breakthrough. Now that he had become a ruler, how strong would he be? They could feel it just by looking at the divine power in front of them. The divine power emanating from Jian Wushuang was obviously not something an ordinary ruler could have. This divine power is really scary. The three rulers stood in the void of the Star Palace and felt the divine power from up close. Their expressions were quite interesting. It's indeed terrifying. It's much more powerful than an ordinary ruler. When I broke through from Principal's Master to ruler, the divine power I released was probably not even 1/3 as strong as his, the Heaven Ancestor said. You are nothing more than the most ordinary ruler of this universe. How can you compare yourself to a freak at the level of a perfect being? Daoist Shen God laughed. The special life forms of this universe are all extraordinary creatures to begin with. They are far more powerful than ordinary cultivators, especially when it comes to divine power. They have a tremendous advantage, while perfect life forms are even more heaven-defying. I've seen Mystic One make a breakthrough before, and the commotion was just as terrifying. He only broke through to become a Principal's Master, but the commotion of his breakthrough and the godly power he released were much greater than many rulers who had just broken through. And this little guy is naturally no weaker than Mystic One. In fact, from what I can see, the godly power he is displaying now is even stronger than Mystic One's. This proves that his potential is definitely greater than Mystic One's. Chapter 3620, Triple. Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were chatting and laughing. On the other side, Jian Wushuang's transformation of divine power was coming to an end. The overwhelming divine power that had filled the entire Star Palace was finally beginning to fade away. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened them, he clenched his hands tightly and instantly felt a terrifying power that could easily crush stars. This power was much stronger than his previous saint level. It's just as I guessed. At the immortal saint realm, my divine power is no less than that of an ordinary Principal's Master, or even stronger than an ordinary Principal's Master. Now that I've broken through to the Principal's Master realm, My divine power is comparable to a ruler. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The innate advantage of a perfect life-level cultivator was simply too great. And this innate advantage was first reflected in the power of divine power. He had only just broken through to become a principal's master, but his divine power was already comparable to a ruler. Of course, this also had a few functions of the power of will. After he broke through, the power of will he had grasped, it had also undergone a qualitative transformation and had reached a new level. Moreover, this was only the basic power of divine power. Life divine power. With a thought, Jian Wushuang activated the life divine power. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang felt that his strength had increased by a large margin, almost by 40%. It has improved so much all of a sudden. Jian Wushuang was immediately delighted. He had obtained the life divine power from Bloodwave. It was a secret skill from the Life Palace, which was specially for special life forms to cultivate. To a large extent, it could allow special life forms to exert their innate advantages. However, the effect of this secret skill had a lot to do with the realm of the cultivator. Previously, Jian Wushuang was only at the level of the immortal saint. After using this secret skill, the increase in power was equivalent to an additional portion of the power of the will. Now that he had reached the level of principal's master, his divine power was comparable to that of a ruler. When he used the life divine power, his power was increased by another 40%. Don't underestimate this 40% power. This was the power of a ruler. Just an additional 10% was enough to have a great impact on a big battle. 40%. This meant that if he encountered a primary ruler in the future, he could definitely crush his opponent in the power of divine power. Although Senior Bloodwave gave me the life divine power, this life divine power is only the first level. There is still a limit to the advantages I can bring out. If I can learn the complete life divine power one day, it will be even more helpful to me. Jian Wushuang sighed. He knew very well that he could only exert 10% of his innate advantage by using the first stage of the life divine power. However, he had heard from Bloodwave that the creator of the life divine power had cultivated the life divine power to the peak. He could exert more than 10% of his innate advantage. Unfortunately, he did not have the complete life divine power. In addition to the life magic power, Jian Wushuang had another trump card, which was the heaven-cleaving skill. Now that I have broken through to become a principal's master, my realm is no weaker than that of my master at his peak. Logically speaking, I should be able to exert the strongest power of the heaven-cleaving skill. I wonder how much the heaven-cleaving skill can improve my strength. Jian Wushuang had a trace of expectation in his heart. The heaven-cleaving skill was the most powerful skill created by his master. Most importantly, this skill was very unique. When Jian Wushuang used it, even Bloodwave was shocked by it. At that time, Bloodwave said that if he could use all the power of his heaven-cleaving skill, he would be able to use 30% of his innate advantage. After all, the life divine power he was cultivating now could increase his own power by 40%, but this 40% was only 10% of his innate advantage. If he could use 10% of his innate advantage, he would be able to use 40% more of his divine power. As for the 30% innate advantage, let's give it a try. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He waved his right hand and immediately used the heaven-cleaving skill. The moment he used the heaven-cleaving skill, the power in his hand suddenly increased. Boom! A low sonic boom was heard in the void. The void in front of him was almost shattered by him. This power, Jian Wushuang widened his eyes. He could clearly feel the sudden increase in power when he used the heaven-cleaving skill. The power had more than doubled. The 30% innate advantage didn't disappoint me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, a hint of surprise on his face. Then he tried again. He wanted to fully understand the level of power he had reached after using the life divine power and heaven-cleaving skill. After trying again and again, he soon figured it out. My current power is equivalent to that of an ordinary ruler, maybe a little stronger than an ordinary primary ruler. When I use the life divine power, my power will increase by 40%, which is equivalent to 140% of my power. But once I use the heaven-cleaving skill, my power will more than double. If I count all of them, I estimate that my power will be 280% or 290%. Jian Wushuang muttered. 280%, or even 290%. This was almost 3 times the power of an ordinary primary ruler. 3 times the power of a primary ruler. If I only talk about power, I'm afraid I can compete with an ordinary advanced ruler. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had to admit that the life divine power and the heaven cleaving skill had given him a great surprise, especially the heaven cleaving skill. One had to know that he had already activated the origin of the Sword Dao universe and had already created a 7th tier high-grade ultimate art. Combined with the power that was comparable to that of a high-grade ruler, his battle prowess would be able to reach the level of a high-grade ruler in a short period of time. Even if he couldn't completely compare to a high-grade ruler, he would at least be very close. As for a high-grade ruler, one had to know that even in this territory, there were very, very few of them. Daoist Shen God, the Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor were all just low-grade rulers. In the Divine Beginning realm, after Shen Yi had fallen, it seemed that only the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had the battle strength of a senior ruler. However, now that he had broken through to Principal's Master, his battle strength had risen to the level of a senior ruler, which surprised Jian Wushuang. Chapter 36-21, Bloodsword Ruler. After a long while, Jian Wushuang calmed himself down. Then he stood up and walked out of the secret chamber. At this moment, Star Palace was no longer as quiet as it used to be. On the contrary, it was very lively. There were hundreds of experts under Star Palace. Although most of them had gone to the 3 battlefields to explore, there were still nearly 80 who stayed in Star Palace. These nearly 80 Principal's Masters were alarmed at this moment, all of them gathered in the void in front of Jian Wushuang's courtyard. Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were also standing there. As Jian Wushuang walked out of his residence, the surrounding heated gazes instantly shot toward him. At the same time, the nearly 80 Principal's Masters also bowed down one after another. We pay our respects to the Bloodsword Ruler. His voice reverberated throughout the entire Star Palace. Ruler? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, but his expression was rather strange. At this moment, his divine power had already been restrained, and there was not a trace of divine power or aura spreading out. With the naked eyes of these Principal's Masters, they could not see that Jian Wushuang had accumulated any power at all. However, when the Principal's Masters thought of the enormous divine power and movement just now, they had already determined that Jian Wushuang had broken through to the ruler realm. Therefore, as soon as Jian Wushuang came out, they immediately kowtowed. However, in reality, Jian Wushuang had not reached the ruler realm. Ha, Bloodsword Ruler, congratulations. Hearty laughter rang out. Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor also came to Jian Wushuang, and all 3 of them smiled. Seniors, even you, Jian Wushuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was not a ruler. Although the Principal's Masters could not see it, the 3 rulers could see it at a glance. However, the 3 of them clearly saw it, but they did not point it out. Instead, they addressed him as a ruler. It's not convenient to say so much here. Let's go to my space, Heaven Ancestor said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and then followed the 3 of them to the space. While they were leaving, Daoist Shen God gave an order. Don't mention what happened today to anyone else. Otherwise, you will be severely punished. This order made the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor feel very strange. Because the 3 of them had said that since so many people had seen Jian Wushuang's breakthrough, it was impossible to stop the transmission of the news. But knowing this, Daoist Shen God still gave such an order. In that special space, in the beautiful manner. Haha, little guy, you've finally broken through to Principal's Master. Daoist Shen God laughed very happily. Shen God, pay attention to how you address him. Jian Wushuang has already broken through to Principal's Master. If nothing goes wrong, his strength should be comparable to that of a ruler. His strength is already on par with ours. You can't call him little guy anymore, Temporal Temple Master said. Yes, I was slow. Please don't take offense, Heavenly Sword Marquis, Daoist Shen God apologized on purpose. Jian Wushuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. Seniors, although you have already broken through, you are indeed just a little guy in front of the three of you. You can call me that. It doesn't matter. Besides, the three of you are from the same era as my master, so it's reasonable to call you that even according to seniority. No. The temporal temple master shook his head. Although in terms of age, we are indeed much older than you. However, from ancient times until now, cultivators have always depended on their strength, not on who is older. Your current strength is no weaker than ours, so naturally, you will communicate with us as equals. This is a rule among cultivators, and you cannot go against it. Yes, my dear Heavenly Sword Marquis, just listen to us. As for your master, you don't have to pay attention to him. He has already fallen. Even if he is still alive, I dare say that he will let you communicate with me as equals, the Heaven Ancestor said. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly, but he did not refuse again. In that case, I have offended the Black God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor. Haha, that's more like it. Shen God immediately laughed. My young friend, although you've just made a breakthrough, you should have some understanding of your current strength, right? Temporal Temple Master looked over. I do have some understanding. I'm certainly not inferior to an ordinary primary ruler in terms of battle strength. As for what will happen when I encounter an advanced ruler, I'm not sure, Jian Wushuang said. He was already very humble. He knew very well that with his full strength, the power of a primary ruler was 3 times stronger than that of a primary ruler. In addition, he had created an advanced level 7 secret skill. Even if he encountered an advanced ruler, he would still be able to fight against an ordinary primary ruler. He would definitely be able to crush them. After hearing Jian Wushuang's words, the eyes of the 3 rulers lit up. Daoist Shen God added, since you can't make an accurate judgment, let us help you. Heaven Ancestor, it's better for you to fight with this little guy. I have no objection. The Heaven Ancestor nodded. In that case, please enlighten me, Heaven Ancestor. Jian Wushuang smiled. In this space-time, Jian Wushuang and the Heaven Ancestor fought again. The last time they fought, Jian Wushuang was just testing the strength of his divine body, so he did not dodge the attack of the Heaven Ancestor. Instead, he used his divine body to receive it. But in this battle, the two of them were going to fight head-on. Although in this space-time, their strength was limited, so they might not be able to completely let go of their hands and feet, but in some simple exchanges, was enough for them to have a certain understanding of each other's strength. Boom, 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 boom. A series of terrifying explosions could be heard in this space-time. Jian Wushuang and the Heaven Ancestor were fighting madly in this space-time. Every time they collided, the space-time would tremble violently as if it could not withstand the power of the two. In the end, the space-time was even on the verge of collapse. Soon, an hour passed, and the space-time was on the verge of collapse. At this time, Jian Wushuang and the Heaven Ancestor finally stopped. The two put away their magic weapons and stood together. Daoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master, who had been watching the battle, also walked over. However, at this moment, Daoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor, who had been fighting Jian Wushuang, all had strange expressions on their faces. My dear Heavenly Sword Marquis, you didn't use your full strength just now, did you? The Heaven Ancestor looked at Jian Wushuang seriously. Well, Jian Wushuang just laughed dryly. I knew it. The Heaven Ancestor sighed heavily. I could tell from your calm and composed look when you fought with me that you didn't use your full strength, but even so, you still completely suppressed me. Chapter 36-22. Trouble. He really didn't use his full strength. Daoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master nodded to themselves. They had clearly seen the battle just now. Apart from some of his trump cards and life-saving methods, the Heaven Ancestor had indeed used all of his strength. But what about Jian Wushuang? From the beginning to the end, he had been very casual and relaxed. No matter what kind of attack the Heaven Ancestor used, he could easily resolve it. Even if he used his swordsmanship casually, it would still be extremely terrifying. It was so relaxed and comfortable that it was obvious that he had not used all of his strength. Even so, the battle in the last hour had been one-sided. The Heaven Ancestor had been completely suppressed by Jian Wushuang. It seems that your strength is much stronger than we thought after you broke through to Principal's Master, Daoist Shen God said. That's normal. During the years I was trapped, my cultivation of Sword Principle had improved greatly. I have created advanced Level 7 Absolute Arts. As for elementary Level 7 Absolute Arts, I have created many of them. Now that I have made a breakthrough, my strength is no weaker than that of an ordinary ruler. With the advantage of the Absolute Arts, I can indeed gain the upper hand when fighting with an ordinary elementary ruler. Of course, the Heaven Ancestor must have held back a little, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Don't hold back for me. I know very well whether you have held back or not. The Heaven Ancestor curled his lips. Jian Wushuang could only smile. Not bad. To have such strength right after breaking through is already much stronger than we expected. If you can get a suitable Supreme Treasure Divine Weapon, your strength should be even stronger, Daoist Shen God said. Shen God, is there any result for the Supreme Treasure Divine Sword? Jian Wushuang immediately looked at Daoist Shen God. Before he went into seclusion, Daoist Shen God had told him that he would find a way to get a Supreme Treasure Divine Sword for him. Now that 3,000 years had passed, there should be a result. That divine sword is a bit troublesome. Daoist Shen God frowned. Troublesome? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. My young friend, I told you before that the most powerful supreme treasure, the divine sword, is in the hands of an extremely powerful ruler, who is also the leader of a major force. Daoist Shen God said seriously, originally, I had prepared sufficient resources. Not to say that I could completely impress him, but using these things I prepared to exchange for the most powerful supreme treasure, which he doesn't need at all, he should have definitely made a profit. The possibility of him agreeing should be very high, but the result was completely beyond my expectations. Did he refuse? Jian Wushuang asked. It would be easy if he refused on the spot. Since he refused so decisively, it means that the supreme true treasure divine sword is not useless to him. On the contrary, he may value it more. For example, if an expert who specializes in sword principle breaks through to become a ruler, he can leave the divine sword to him. But the key point is that he did not refuse directly at the beginning. He paused for a moment, Daoist Shen God continued, he didn't reject me directly. Instead, he asked me who I wanted to give the supreme treasure sword to. Since the ruler had nothing to do with the sacred island and had no grudge with my star palace, I didn't think too much about it and said that it was for you. Unexpectedly, the ruler immediately changed his mind and said that he would never give you the supreme treasure sword. What? Jian Wushuang was stunned. At first, he did not refuse, but when he heard that Daoist Shen God would give him the divine sword, he immediately changed his face. It was obvious that the ruler had a lot of opinions about him. What's going on, my young friend? Apart from Sacred Island, have you offended other rulers in this territory? Temporal Temple Master looked at him. Well, I don't know. Although I've been in the 3 battlefields for a while, I haven't really offended many experts. As for the rulers, I've been in the 3 battlefields for a long time, but I've never met any other rulers except those from Sacred Island, Jian Wushuang said. He was puzzled. When he was in the 3 battlefields, he had been very careful and did not offend any experts, let alone the rulers. Why did any of the rulers have such a strong opinion of him? Shen God, what's going on? Temporal Temple Master looked at Shen God. I asked and the ruler told me the reason. It does have something to do with the Heavenly Sword Marquis. Shen God took a deep breath. He asked, Heavenly Sword Marquis, when you were in Devil Smoke Valley, did you have any dealings with the people of the North Sea Palace? The North Sea Palace. Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Among all the forces in this territory, the North Sea Palace, which was ranked in the top 3, could be said to be a ruler in this territory. Jian Wushuang really had dealings with the North Sea Palace. Could it be them? Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He said, when I was wandering in Devil Smoke Valley, I met with the Shuyang Master and the Red Eye Master. The Shuyang Master and the Red-Eye Master worked together to search for prey in the Nine Twists Demon Cave in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley and forcibly seized the treasures in each other's hands. At that time, they found me. What happened in the end? Daoist Shen God asked. They were strong, but they were not as skilled as me. I was fine during the encounter, but they suffered a great loss, Jian Wushuang said. Not just a great loss. I heard from the ruler that you almost killed the Red-Eye Master during the encounter, Daoist Shen God said strangely. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. If they wanted to kill me, I would fight back with all my strength. If I had the chance to kill one of them, I wouldn't show any mercy. Red-Eye Master underestimated me and was severely taught a lesson. If it weren't for one of the masters, she would have been dead. That's it. Daoist Shen God shrugged. The ruler who has the supreme treasure divine sword is one of the leaders of the North Sea Palace, Master Skyrock. He is also the strongest expert in the North Sea Palace. The Red-Eye Master who almost died in your hands is one of his direct descendants. Direct descendants. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. My young friend, you might not know this, but the Skyrock ruler is an extremely ancient ruler. He rose to power very early. When he rose to power, his family soared to the sky because of him and became a great ruler of his Fang Xingjie. He has stood tall and firm for a long time. After so many years, there are many members in his family, and naturally, some of them are extremely talented. Chapter 36-23. Going to the North Sea Palace. The Red-Eye Master is the most outstanding of the junior disciples of the clan which Skyrock ruler belongs to. She is highly regarded by this Skyrock ruler. In fact, Skyrock ruler once personally guided her for a period of time. In the North Sea Palace, she received far more treatment than many Peak 6 stage experts, and you nearly killed her. Daoist Shen God sighed. Of course, you didn't kill the Red-Eye Master, and the Red-Eye Master provoked you, so the Skyrock ruler wouldn't lower himself to deal with you. However, not dealing with you doesn't mean that he doesn't care about it. Therefore, when he found out that I was going to give you the divine sword, he changed his mind. Is that so? Jian Wushuang was stunned. The Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor were also puzzled. What bad luck. Jian Wushuang could not help sighing. I have been in the 3 battlefields for a long time, and the only one who has a grudge with me is the Red-Eye Master. I didn't expect the Red-Eye Master to have such a great background. Moreover, the most powerful supreme treasure magic weapon happened to be in the hands of Master Skyrock. Jian Wushuang felt bitter in his heart. He was indeed unlucky. The only person who had a grudge against him happened to have a close relationship with Master Skyrock. If I had known, I would have just run away when I was forced by Shuyang Master and Red-Eye Master. Jian Wushuang felt a little regretful. There's no other way. Even in the North Sea Palace, not many people knew about the relationship between Red-Eye Master and Master Skyrock, and the outside world didn't know about it. They only treated her as an ordinary expert of the North Sea Palace. In the end, that's all that happened, Daoist Shen God said. If that's the case, I'm afraid this supreme true treasure sword is really troublesome. Jian Wushuang's face darkened slightly. How could a person who almost killed his beloved junior disciple be willing to give this sword to me? If it were me, I wouldn't be willing either. That's why he sent me away earlier, Daoist Shen God said calmly. Suddenly, his expression changed. Although this matter is very troublesome and it's impossible for him to exchange the supreme treasure divine sword for ours, there's still a way to get it. What way? Jian Wushuang, the Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor immediately looked over. I only thought of it after I saw the divine body of the Divine Marquis, which is comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure. The Daoist Shen God smiled slightly, then he said, You 3 should have heard of the Skyrock ruler. He is a superior ruler, and his strength is far stronger than ours. In addition, his North Sea Palace is one of the top 3 forces in this territory. He must be very arrogant. Arrogant? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Yes, arrogant. And that's what we're going to use. Daoist Shen God smiled and explained his plan briefly. After listening to Daoist Shen God, Jian Wushuang, Temporal Temple Master, and the heaven ancestor all looked very strange. This method is really stupid. Jian Wushuang could not help but say, haha, the method is a little stupid, but it might actually work. Heaven ancestor smiled. Yes, but you still have to be careful. Don't go too far. After all, it's the territory of the North Sea Palace. If you go too far and force the Master Sky Rock into a corner, it's hard to guarantee that he won't do anything. Temporal Temple Master smiled strangely. By the way, is that why you ordered the experts of Star Palace not to spread the news of the Heavenly Sword Marquis breakthrough? Yes. Daoist Shen God nodded. What I said is indeed a little stupid. Moreover, this method can only be used before the news is completely spread. That is to say, when the Sky Rock ruler believes that the Heavenly Sword Marquis is only a principal's master, he might be fooled. However, if the news is completely spread and everyone knows that the Sky Rock ruler has made another breakthrough to become a ruler, then the Sky Rock ruler might not be fooled. Although the Heavenly Sword Marquis is still a principal's master and hasn't reached the level of a ruler, he might still be wary of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough in the Star Palace. That's why I gave the order. Of course, although I gave the order, I know clearly that it's impossible for the experts in the Star Palace to carry it out. Therefore, the news will definitely spread. However, it won't be so brazen, and it won't spread too fast. That gives us time to complete the task. In other words, we have to go to the North Sea Palace and get the Supreme Treasure Divine Sword before the news spreads to the North Sea Palace. Temporal Temple Master said in a deep voice. That's right. Daoist Shen God nodded. The North Sea Palace is one of the top 3 forces in this territory. They have many universal passageways in this territory. I know one that can help us get to the North Sea Palace as quickly as possible. If nothing goes wrong, we can get there before the news reaches the North Sea Palace, Daoist Shen God said. Jian Wushuang understood what had happened and let out a sigh of relief. He said, I had planned to return to the Divine Beginning Realm to open the seal and return to my hometown after my breakthrough, but now it seems that I have to put this matter aside and wait until I come back from the North Sea Palace. Jian Wushuang felt a little regretful, but he soon looked up again with a fierce gleam in his eyes. Let's not delay. Shen God, let's go to the North Sea Palace now. Okay. Daoist Shen God nodded. They immediately rushed to the North Sea Palace as fast as they could. As for the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor, they did not participate in it. After all, Jian Wushuang and Daoist Shen God were going for the Supreme Treasure Divine Sword, and their opponent was the North Sea Palace of the Sky Rock ruler, which had the strength of a top-tier ruler. Moreover, there was not only one ruler in the North Sea Palace, so they could not force him like when they had obtained the Netherfire Blood Crystal. They could only use their wits. They had already made a plan, and only Jian Wushuang and Shen God were needed to complete it. The North Sea Palace was one of the rulers of this territory. The 3 palace masters of the North Sea Palace were all experts at the ruler realm, especially the Sky Rock ruler, who was widely recognized as a top-tier ruler. Among all the rulers in this territory, he was definitely one of the strongest rulers in this territory. The North Sea Palace was located in the east of this territory, and its base was also on Earth Star. However, the North Sea Palace occupied a total of 3 Earth Stars, and its scale was not something the Star Palace could compare to. Chapter 36-24. In the North Sea Palace. This is the North Sea Palace? It's so grand. Jian Wushuang stood in the void of the universe and looked at the 3 triangular-shaped world stars in front of him. The 3 world stars were connected with each other in a magic formation. Although they were 3 huge world stars, they looked like a whole. After all, he is one of the rulers of this territory, so of course he is generous. Daoist Shen God said, follow me. Daoist Shen God brought Jian Wushuang to one of the Earth stars very quickly. However, because of the existence of the magic formation, they could not enter the Earth star directly. I have already sent a message to the people of the North Sea Palace. Someone will come to pick us up soon. My young friend, when we enter the North Sea Palace and meet the Master Yunchen, you must do as I told you on the way. We must cooperate with each other so that we can trick the Master Sky Rock, Daoist Shen God warned. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. It did not take long for a figure to walk out from the sector star. It was a middle-aged man in a white robe with a gentle face. Jian Wushuang recognized him the moment he saw him. Master Yunchen, one of the 7 experts of the pinnacle of the 6th realm in the North Sea Palace. He is also the personal disciple of the Master Sky Rock. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. There were not many ultimate experts of the 6 realms in this territory, but the North Sea Palace had a total of 7. This showed how powerful the North Sea Palace was. As for Master Yunchen, although Jian Wushuang had never met him, he had read his information. Master Shen God, you are here again. Master Yunchen bowed slightly to Daoist Shen God after he arrived. When he raised his head, he looked at Jian Wushuang, and his expression immediately turned cold. You are, Bloodsword Master? Master Yunchen's voice became low. Master Yunchen knew that Jian Wushuang had caused such a huge commotion in Devil Smoke Valley and was now recognized as the strongest principal's master in this territory. He had also seen the mirror image of Jian Wushuang fighting with the 5 experts of the pinnacle of the 6th realm. He remembered Jian Wushuang's appearance, so he recognized him at a glance. Compared to the mirror image, Master Yunchen's heart was slightly moved when he saw Jian Wushuang in person. Although Jian Wushuang had restrained his divine power and he could not sense any aura, just standing there made him feel an extremely dangerous aura. This aura, he had never sensed it from other principal's masters. It's said that Bloodsword Master is the strongest principal's master in this territory. I had some doubts before, but now it seems that he is indeed the strongest, Master Yunchen muttered to himself. After all, he was also an expert at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. Among the many experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm in this territory, he was also extremely powerful. However, Jian Wushuang gave him a sense of danger just by standing there and not making a move. Jian Wushuang must be much stronger than him. Hello, Master Yunchen. Jian Wushuang greeted Master Yunchen with a smile. I didn't expect you, Bloodsword Master, to come to the North Sea Palace in person. I'm surprised. Master Yunchen gave Jian Wushuang a deep look and then waved his hand. Follow me. Master Yunchen immediately led the way. With the guidance of Master Yunchen, the magic formation of the North Sea Palace did not make things difficult for Jian Wushuang and Daoist Shen God. They soon entered the North Sea Palace. When they arrived at the North Sea Palace, many experts of the North Sea Palace immediately noticed the presence of Jian Wushuang and Daoist Shen God. Look, among the 2 people following Master Yunchen, is the person carrying the divine sword, the Bloodsword Master? Yes, it's him. I've seen the battle between him and the 5 Blood Spirit Kings. It's exactly the same. It really is the Bloodsword Master. He actually came to our North Sea Palace. The person beside the Bloodsword Master seems to be a ruler. Could it be the one from Star Palace? It's him. Not long ago, the Palace Master of Star Palace also came to our North Sea Palace. Last time, he came alone, but this time, he actually brought the Bloodsword Master with him. What are they trying to do? The entire North Sea Palace began to discuss. Because the North Sea Palace had 3 Earth Stars, Jian Wushuang and Daoist Shen God only appeared on one of them. However, the experts of the North Sea Palace did not see them on the other 2 Earth Stars. The 2 Earth Stars were still very calm. On one of the Earth Stars stood a huge golden tower. This golden tower had a total of 33 floors and was extremely majestic. This tower was extremely famous in the North Sea Palace and was one of the most important cultivation resources in the North Sea Palace. There was only one use for this golden tower, and that was to temper the strength of one's soul. It was precisely because of this that experts from the North Sea Palace would often wander around the golden tower, making their souls stronger and more resilient. At that moment, on the 30th floor of the golden tower, there was a beautiful woman wearing a purplish-red robe. Her eyes were strangely red, which meant that the Red-Eye Master was sitting there cross-legged. She allowed the surrounding waves of soul power to madly charge at her. She forced her eyes to clench their teeth and forcefully endure the soul power. What she was good at was the soul, and the soul attack from the golden tower was a form of cultivation for her. It could make her soul stronger faster. At this moment, Red Eye, a communication token in her interspatial ring started to vibrate crazily. Red Eye Master opened her eyes and took out her communication token. She replied, "Shi Yang, what's wrong? Are you still training your soul power?" On the other end of the token, Shi Yang Master's voice sounded urgent. Yes. Red Eye Master was puzzled. She and Shi Yang Master had quite a good relationship. Previously, the two of them had been adventuring in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley together, and they had even worked together to snatch treasures from various experts. However, it had not been long before the two of them had returned to the North Sea Palace. All these years, she had been training her soul power. As for Shi Yang Master, she had also stopped adventuring and remained in the North Sea Palace. Stop training. Quick, come to this Earth Star of mine and become the ruler of this place, Shi Yang Master said hurriedly. What's going on? Red Eye Master was even more puzzled. It's Bloodsword Master, Shi Yang Master said suddenly. Upon hearing this name, Red Eye Master was instantly stunned, and her gaze instantly turned cold. Bloodsword Master, this name had always been engraved in her heart force. She had never forgotten it. Back in Devil Smoke Valley, she had nearly died at the hands of this Bloodsword Master. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,